When you start living with the end in mind, everything starts to change. What are people going to say about you? What message is your life going to speak when you're long gone? Because you weren't born by accident. You didn't just happen to be where you're at and happen to watch this video. There is always a reason.
All right. Well, this is podcast 144. And Fuse Life, we're all about God-given assignments and purpose and walking with God flowing in and through us. And I'm really excited about my guest today, Owen. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. I don't know how I came across something you posted, but as I went through your page, I was like, man, your vulnerability, your transparency, your willingness to be free, all of this kind of really hit me, and it's not that common in, say, a Christian space to find men and women that are just willing to be who they are, good, bad, ugly, all of it, and that really hit me. And then just watching you document your journey through things of your past, and then you being on the red carpet for the Chosen or the Sound of Freedom movie. I was like, wow, man, he's moving in his assignment with the Lord, and then you're doing all this amazing stuff in the YouTube space. So I was like, man, it'd be great to have a conversation with you, and I know it's going to help a lot of people on their journey. So, Owen, thank you so much for being with me this morning.
Yeah, I'm pumped to be here, and I hope that we have I'm looking forward to a valuable conversation today.
Yeah. So just for those that don't really know what you're about, can you just share a little bit about you, what you're doing currently?
Yeah, sure. My name is Owen. I go by Owen Video professionally, and I'm a YouTube coach, believe it or not. I'm a professional YouTube coach. It's all I've ever done for the last 13 years. I'm the only YouTube coach who's been in the game that long. There are other YouTube coaches out there, and they're great. They're great people, and I love them all. And there's a lot that we have in common. But what makes me different is that I coach business owners how to launch YouTube channels that will fill the funnel, that will create leads and lead flow. And so you're accomplishing two big goals. Number one, you're becoming this local online celebrity. You're becoming an influencer in your space, whether it's a karate studio or whether it's a business coach or a real estate agent. Like, we work with all these clients. So you're becoming well known locally. You're developing an audience. People are actually following you, and so there's a leadership component to what we do. And I'm a huge advocate and student of leadership, and always will be. And then what we do is we turn that into money. We show you how to host webinars, and we show you how to turn those viewers into people who buy. And we only work with business owners. We don't really work with 22-year-old family vloggers or maybe a mom and her daughter making slime channels in the basement. Like, that's not really what we do. But I've been in this space for a long time, and I'm very well known in the spaces. And because of that, God has opened up so many doors to working with the Chosen, who I'm closely. I've worked with them multiple times now. Got to hang out with Dallas and Jonathan Rumi, and just even there's this great viral video of me arm wrestling one of the apostles, Noah. It's great opportunity. And then Sound of Freedom, I've worked with Angel Studios before, and so they call me all the time, and they're, hey, do this red carpet for us and whatnot. And I love what I do, because the closer that I get to God, the more doors he opens for me. And sometimes I pray for those doors. Other times he gifts them to me. He just says, Owen, here you go. Like, here's this lead, this sale, it's in your lap. Or like, Owen, I want you to be my representative at this event. You know what I mean? Or I want you to be in this community. I went to go do the Chosen, their live stream event, and I'm hanging out there with all the Chosen cast and crew, but then a guy named Ruslan KD shows up, and I had never met Ruslan before, but he's a Christian YouTuber. And we were able to connect right then and there. We got to spend a little bit of time together throughout that weekend. And then just a couple of weeks later, I saw him at another mutual friends event, and we got to hang out there again. And this event was full of Christian YouTubers. The YouTube space is filled with so many believers and so many people of faith. I'm blessed to be a pioneer in that space. And that space really came together for me when I was diagnosed with a terrible disease a few years ago. That community came together and raised money for me and gathered around me. And so that's also a big part of my story, is in this YouTube coach who ran into some health problems.
Man, so much here that we can go into, and we will go into, but let me just rewind back to when you talk about you helping business owners and not necessarily a 22-year-old vlogger. And so you're actually helping people build a business and create revenue. So it's not just I'm trying to get views and become viral and in the sense that just trying to have a big YouTube channel, but actually have a big back end business. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 100% correct. Like, we all like making videos, but if this is a hobby for you, you're probably not the right client for us, right? Like, maybe you have a full-time job, you're going to college, already that's not really our client. But if you have a full-time job and you're going to college, it's like, oh, I do some woodworking in my garage, or maybe I have a skateboard channel or something like this. My son has a Nike or shoe reselling program he's sort of working on. That's not really what we do, right? Like, our client is already a lawyer. My client is already a real estate investor, right? My client maybe owns 3 different karate studios and a jumpy time gym in the local community, and is like, hey, we want to make videos that get views. We want people to watch our videos and be inspired by us, right? Like, we want to be thought leaders in the space. When somebody thinks about, like, getting insurance, right? Or life insurance, or like setting up your kids with a plan, or maybe like estate planning. Like, I want to be the person that they think about when somebody wants to move and buy a house in Texas. Like, I want to be that real estate agent that they think about, right? So that's one part of what we do, is doing videos, even for a business, right? It's like, how does a business make a video that gets 10,000 views on it, right? They're all sales pitches. What we've done, I mean, we've uploaded thousands and thousands of videos there. I can't imagine that there's many other people on YouTube that have been a part of and contributed to the upload of so many, thousands of videos for me at this point. Wow. So that's one part of it, is like making a great video, even though you're a business owner. And then, making sure that video converts people into a sale, right? Like, the biggest problem that our clients face is they're trying to make every video convert a viewer into a sale. And really what we should be focused on is creating a strategy whereby, you're gaining audience and then creating very specific videos to target segments of the audience and bringing them into the sales funnel. Like, that's real video marketing strategy. And it doesn't have anything to do with how purple your hair is or how pink your background is. It has nothing to do with how bright and shiny your thumbnails are. It has everything to do about the way that you present yourself on camera. And let me tell you this, there is nobody too old, too young, too fat, too smart, too dumb to be on YouTube. Take a look at the politicians that have made it in this country, right? Why? Because of TV, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter what you look like or who you are. What media has shown us is that anybody from Barack Obama to Donald Trump can use the media, can use video to make an impact in their business. And so that's what we teach, right? That's what my education is in, is like, how do you present to a camera, really inspire that camera? Then on the back end, we talk about things like how to manage editors and, how to build your funnel and what's a good offer like, and how much should you be converting, right? Like, that's part of the back end stuff that we do.
Sure. So how did you come into this space? Like, and obviously you would say to me that God has brought you in here and you're working with God on all these projects and he's opening doors. How did you come to this place where you're like, man, Lord, you're calling me into this media space?
Yeah. I didn't know the Lord when I came into this space, and yet I look back and I know that he was watching over me the whole time. Oh. So, first things first, I was born, no, just kidding. When I was a kid, though, my dad came home with 2 big gifts under the tree, right? He came home with a Nintendo and a video camera. And I never played with the Nintendo to this day. I kind of missed video games. I was in the editing room. I was making videos. And at the time, I never learned video in school. Nobody had video in school. So I was at home learning how to make videos, like stop motion Lego videos and skits in the backyard with the neighbor kids. I had a reputation for having the video camera in my hand all the time. So,
Wow.
all through my life, like that was like kind of in high school, I was in a sketch comedy group called the Pentaveret, and we would write sketch comedy. And so to this day, I have a TikTok channel that does sketch comedy, and I love sketch comedy. But we would do skits and we would film them, and then we'd like play them at school assemblies and things like this. And so there was always that element of my business, but it didn't pay anything. I had sort of a rough upbringing, grew up in Los Angeles to a mom and dad that didn't love each other, and wonder how much they could have loved me, because I didn't get a lot of attention from my dad. And my mom, whenever she paid attention to me, she was berating me. She was high on prescription medications. I mean, half of my life, my mom was asleep on the couch, in a bathrobe, and it was like, it's embarrassed, you know what I mean? And she'd wake up screaming, and it was like this really terrible thing. So I never graduated. I got kicked out of high school, got into sales and marketing, right? And like just kind of scrambling, trying to make my way. So even at those companies that I was doing sales and marketing for, like I was making videos for my customers and client base. I remember working at a sales organization, setting appointments, and I made a PowerPoint, this is back, man, PowerPoint was like, nobody was using PowerPoint like this, right? So I would make these animated PowerPoint slides. Nowadays you can record the screen, right?
Sure.
Back then they had a feature called Slideshow. And what Slideshow does is it takes your animation and runs them in one complete from beginning to end. So you can send your clients a slideshow. So I would make these extravagant 5-6 page PowerPoints with like animations and pops and whizzes and bangs, and they were videos, and we sold a ton of clients. Like I was I forget, I had some management role there at that company. But so I got into work at radio. I was working at a Christian radio station. I was not a Christian, but I liked Christians, and I was like, I maybe meet a girl here, and like, kind of live an honorable life, right? Like kids will go to church and that sort of thing, and whatnot. But that's when two things happened. That's when I found my passion for YouTube, and that's when God broke into my life. And so those two things are intrinsically connected.
Wow. So what happened? You're gonna have to tell us how God broke in. But I also have this question: Why did you want a family where the children would go to church? Like, you're not a Christian, but why was that there?
Yeah. I grew up in a churchy environment. I grew up in sort of like this really like sort of toxic household, and then we'd go to church on Sunday. But there was no real gospel in my home, and no real salvation, right? And so I knew as a young kid I would never be a part of organized religion, and went through my own spiritual journey. And at this time in my life, I was going through a spiritual journey. I was very curious about what was true, right? And like, is there a truth, right? And sort of that postmodern secular male sort of crying out, was very much real. And I was looking for answers, and I was reading books by a lot of different people. And I came to the Christian side of things, but through that process, even it was a lot of discovery. And so the short story is that my girlfriend told me to watch a particular video. She told, I can't remember the name of it, but it was it was an apologetics video, and she told me to go watch this video. And so she said, I want you to watch this video if you ever find it, and I want you to just go to a Calvary chapel. And so I go, thank you for that advice, right? So I go to a Calvary chapel for this girl, and they had that day the apologetics video that she was mentioning on the table in the lobby, and I didn't have any cash, so I had to go to the gas station to pull out cash. And then came back and bought the DVD. I watched it, and clear as can be, the Lord granted me salvation that day. I watched the video. My faith in Christ was affirmed that God is real, and that Jesus is the Messiah. And they invited you to pray the sinner's prayer. So, and it was there, so I prayed this prayer, and instantly I was was transformed. Like I was in another place. I'm on my bed, I'm sobbing, and my eyes are closed. And so I'm just kind of like repeating this prayer after the guy on the video. And in that moment, I was transformed. And in my mind, I could see an image of light. And it was like a beam of light, an array of light, and it like all coming together. And I heard the Lord say, I am.
Wow.
And I didn't know anything about being born again. I didn't know anything about salvation or Jesus. I didn't know any of that stuff. All I knew is I reached out to God and he responded to me. I didn't know about I am. I didn't know about that, you know? So I wake up the next day and I'm transformed, dude. Like I had all these shirts. I was, you know, addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to women. I would date and club a lot. And I had these shirts that were just kind of raunchy. Look at me. I went and threw away all my dating shirts. And I'm like, I'm done with this lifestyle. And I didn't know what I was like. Scrooge. I was like, I'm as happy as a schoolboy. And I don't know what to do. And, but here's what I did. I woke up the next day and I was committed to Jesus and I was committed to video. If a video can change my life like that, then I want to be a part of that process for other people. And so, you know, I went back to school. I enrolled in video classes, and from that day, I began making apologetic videos. First of all, I had this very early channel called The Apologetics. But as I was making videos, I realized that I could make a career helping business owners make videos. Like I was like, it's going to take me years and years and years. Nobody was big on there was no viral YouTube at that time. Biggest video at the time was probably like evolution of dance, maybe like the first viral video, something like that. Cat videos. People didn't take YouTube seriously. But I'm like, if every business owner had 5 videos on YouTube, like in this town, like that's hundreds of thousands of dollars for me. So I took what I knew of sales and marketing and everything I had learned in my professional career. And I went back to school and I started to learn video professionally. Like I started to learn like the professional elements of video. And before I even graduated, I was knocking on doors in downtown San Diego. And I would ask business owners right then and there, hey, I'll make a video for you right now today for $20. Can you come back tomorrow? I'm going to do my hair. I'll do my makeup. Can you come back tomorrow? If I come back tomorrow, it's $100. But today it's 20. So I did 17 in one day and I'm like, I have a business here. And so from then on, I've been a YouTube coach. I mean, that's literally the first thing I did after leaving the job world. And I've been doing YouTube ever since.
Man, that is so cool. You know, so I'm a purpose coach. We talk a lot about your overarching purpose of your life and how it's made up of a lot of assignments. And here you are watching this video from someone doing apologetics. Do you remember who that was?
Yeah, man. And not only do I know who it was, I ended up meeting him. Years later, he came and spoke at my church. And I remember going up to him and being like, you are the guy that I watched your movie and it changed everything for me. In fact, to this day, he still has a YouTube channel that he does. His name's Joel Kramer. And I had a chance to meet him and he still does apologetic books. He's actually in Israel right now, where he films a YouTube channel on digging up the past and evidence for Jesus. So it's so cool that God not only appointed me to his videos then, but also brought him back in my life, where I was blessed to be able to hug him. And that was cool.
That's amazing. You know, so when we talk about assignments, we talk about purpose and you're doing something with the Lord, there's always, it's like it opens up a space and facilitates encounters for people to have these encounters with God in their own way, right? Like you have this encounter with God through this man just following his assignment, which is not typical. Like apologetics on a video is not, at one stage was not typical, right? So how do you view you and your assignment currently with all these doors opening? And yes, you have favor on your life and you're meeting a lot of people that are successful, but how do you view this in the context of your purpose and assignment?
You know, it's been a process of self-discovery. I feel like God puts a hint in all of us. And I've heard Denzel Washington talk about this, is that like that thing that you desire, like God put that there. And then it's like our life is formed by, do we make choices in our sin, or do we make choices in our faith, right? And that it's like the musician who ends up making, who was born with the purpose to praise the Lord, but ends up making disgusting songs for the radio. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. And so, my whole life I've been sort of a leader, and leadership is how I got pulled out of drugs and alcohol. Somebody gave me the book, John C. Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And I read it, and all of a sudden, like my life came into focus. Like, I am a leader. And the reason that my school did not like me is because I am a leader. And the reason that friend group left me aside is because I am a leader. And it's not like I was a good leader. I'm a leader, but I'm loud, I'm brash, I'm raw. And it's like I began a journey to self-improvement, self-development, right? But I knew that I was always a leader. And so whatever I did, I never fit into the corporate world. I knew that I had to be in a leadership role, and I never knew it was gonna be CEO or founder, or whatever we want to call what I've done here, entrepreneur. But I know that leadership has always been a major role. And I feel that the Lord has told me that I will be a counselor to priests, presidents, and kings. And what I think that means is that I may never be the president, but I will whisper in the ears of presidents. And that's exactly what we do in our business. Like, we are the YouTube coaches behind some of the biggest channels that you've never even heard of, right? 5 million subscribers calling me. Owen, how do we get unstuck? Like, Owen, I know that you're the guy that fixes things, right? Like, how do we get unstuck from our channel? Or Owen, we got 12 million subs, but we're not making any money, right? It's like, we only make enough to cover the cost of the video. Like, how do we monetize this thing? I am whispering in the ears, and it came to me that like that is my role. That is my assignment, and that's my assignment right now. And that's what I'm working towards. And I ask God every day to like clear the path for me, to like show me the way he wants me to go. And I also pray that I would live a life that's worthy of hearing his voice. When Jacob prayed to the Lord, he said, Lord, I am unworthy of any gift you could ever give me, but please protect my life. David said the same thing. He said, Lord, who am I in my house that you would so highly revere me and protect me? So I try to take the same humility to the Lord authentically. And then I ask him, to make me the leader that I want to be. And let me tell you, man, like I have mentored pastors, and most of my close friend group are pastors somewhere, and YouTubers and business people, but also friends. And when you're in that environment of intimacy, you are opening yourself up to some of the most painful experiences of your life.
Sure.
And as a mentor, as a counselor, as an advisor to some, you put yourself in this place of extreme intimacy. And when those people throw their lives away, it hurts to a degree that I couldn't even really I had to learn a new muscle when that started happening. You pour into people and they let you down, and they let themselves down. And that's something rough that you have to deal with. But I do believe that I was sent here to deal with it so that others would be lifted up. And so it's a great honor, I feel. But certainly not a light assignment.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'm loving what you're saying, man. There's so many different places I'd love to go, but you talked about pain. Why don't we hit that a little bit? So you get sick suddenly. What happened there, and how did you walk through that?
Oh, yeah. So I was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal thymoma cancer, which is a cancer of the thymus gland. Thymus is what makes your T cells, right? So thymus, T cells. So it's a killer. Thymoma kills you eventually. And I was given 2 years to live. And it was, this was 3 years ago. So we had to take that to the Lord, and we dealt with the darkest pain we had ever seen. But giving you a bigger story, like this was the second time I had cancer. So I was diagnosed with cancer in 2017, and I was hustling, man. I was young father. I had 3 young kids. We had just bought a house. I was like just hustling videos, man. Like it had gone from like knocking on doors to now film my webinar, film my presentation. And we had a film crew, and we were going to buildings, and we were the first YouTubers, man. Like we were renting out buildings, and people would come in. We'd have 12 people come in and film with us that day, like rotations and stuff, you know? And so we were doing all of this work. I'm doing all of it. And I'm running and hustling and grinding until one day I collapsed. And that's when I found a 12-centimeter tumor in my chest. I had some other symptoms too. I had deep night sweats. I was sweating through 2-3 shirts a night. Losing weight. I didn't know why, but I thought, I'm hustling. I'm drinking Mountain Dew, corn chips every day, like Fritos, you know, like terrible diet, but I'm all like, oh no, it's like, this is the life of an entrepreneur, man. You know what I mean? So I found a 12-centimeter tumor in my chest. I did a year of aggressive chemotherapy that brought on a tremendous pain that I'll never fully tell you about. And after that was over, the first year, devastating me. I did 30 straight days of radiation over at one of the best radiation centers in the country. And there's no such thing as a good radiation center. Like they're all like terrible organizations with treatment that does not work. And yet they sell it to us, and then they ridicule us if we reject it. So what happened was, like, I went through this entirely aggressive, brutal, process. And at the end of it, I go, is the cancer gone? They said, well, let's wait and see. But you finished the treatment. And I'm like, so you, like, this whole idea that they put you on a treatment plan, it had nothing to do with beating the disease. Anyway, they just sent me home. They said, you're done with treatment. Go home. So I went home, and I started to regrow my hair, and I started to just live my life again. And like, I had all these backup diseases from the chemotherapy and from the radiation, right? To this day, I take a blood thinner. To this day, I am stuck on a pharmaceutical pill. But this brings you into my journey. And because I hate being trapped on their system. Like, you want to trip your viewers out, your listeners out, go look up pharmakia, right? Pharmakia, where we get our word pharmacy, pharmacological. In the Bible, it's the word for witchcraft, right? Beware the pharmakia, right? The people will not want to give up their pharmakia in those last days. They're witchcraft, right? And it's like these potions and these pills that are supposed to cure us of our ails, but really they just make us sicker, right? We all know people that did the chemo and did the radiation, and they died. We all know people that did the chemo and did the radiation, and they're not dead yet. But when I got dead, so I went 4.5 years, and I had angioplasties. I have a blood circulation issue. I would have these like hypoglycemic type of shock attacks, and it's like, I'm doing these live videos. This happened once, and I like got trapped on live videos. Like, I had to like take the camera off me and sit down on the ground, and my 2 co-hosts just took the rest of the show. But like, that's kind of like the only time Owen Video ever that's the only time they ever stopped the show, right? So I'm going through all these health problems, slowly bringing myself back up to a place of health again, in and out of the hospital. No, this has nothing to do with your chemotherapy. What are you talking? No, it has nothing to do with it. I don't know what this is for. You're just an unhealthy person. And one of my closest friends, a man that I was mentoring, I did all his premarital counseling. And I was in the wedding party. I stood right there with him while he took his vows. I knew her. My wife mentored her in her premarital. And 3 months after they got married, he took his own life. That put me in a spot. And 3 months later, my cancer came back as stage 4 terminal.
Man.
So when approached with the idea of doing chemotherapy again, they said there's no chemotherapy that's going to cure you. They said there's no radiation, that you're going to die from this. They recommended that I do chemo until I die. Can you believe that? They go,
Wow.
like, it's not going to cure you, but you should still come in and get it. It'll make your life better, right? So I did a little bit of that. I did 3 of those chemos. And that's when God spoke to me. And, you know, he said, this is not what I have ordained for you. And the Holy Spirit led me to a book called How to Starve Cancer. And it was so ethereal, bro. Like, I'm in my house, totally depressed, totally like, I can't believe, God, I'm your faithful servant. I'm your faithful servant, God. Right? I had children for you. I take them to church for you. I honor my wife in my thought and deed. And you strike me down with this, Lord. Like, what kind of a God does this? And I'll never forget the vision that I had. They had told me that the tumor was next to my heart. And this was the results of the last test. We did a total of 3 tests, and every test it got worse. Every test they found something new. And so the last test was, if it's not behind my heart, they could maybe surgically remove it. They called me up, they go, it's behind your heart. You're like, this thing is going to grow and it's going to stop your heart from beating. And it was that night that I took my anger and I put it at the feet of the cross in my room. I'm in my room. My face is in the carpet because I'm dust. I'm nothing. Who am I to challenge the great God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? So I'm prostrate and I'm praying, and I felt the presence of Jesus in the room. And in my mind, I saw his foot at the feet of my hands, you know? And he said, touch my robe. And I did, and I had this intimate moment with the Lord. And I would like to tell you that like some big chariot came down from heaven, but I didn't. I just touched his robe, and I sat there and I cried with him. The next morning, God came to me, and I was sitting depressed on my chair. I'm in my robe. I should have been dressed and ready for work at this point, but I'm just like, who cares? Right. And the Lord said, in just one word, he just whispered a word to me, but that word was pregnant with meaning. And basically what he said was, other people have survived cancer and they've written books about it. Go find one.
Wow.
And it made sense to me, man. It was like, wait a minute, like in business, I never got depressed. I just read a book.
Sure.
Right. So I go to Amazon and I get a book. I got 2 books. The first one changed everything. The second one, I returned it. But the first one was a book called How to Starve Cancer by Jane McClellan, and who has become a friend. She's actually a friend now. Wow. What I do is I read books and then I search down the authors. But that book began my journey into holistic and natural therapy, which eventually became, I received a test of cancer-free last April. So I get to stand before you here today completely free of cancer. And I did it with natural medicine, not a miracle. People ask me all the time, like, did God cure you? No. God created me with a body that knows how to heal. That's the miracle, right? And then God pointed me in that direction. Like, that's the miracle. Did God supernaturally come into my body? No, I don't believe so. God educated me. He showed me that plant medicine and that chemotherapy, like, he showed me all that stuff. And then I did that stuff. I believe anybody can beat cancer at any age, at any stage, without chemotherapy and radiation. And that's become a bigger life purpose for me, is kind of reaching the the wider church community. Like as a church, we rely too heavily on pills and prescriptions.
Sure.
And we need to trust the Lord. We need to trust that he made our bodies able to heal, and he put us in a world with fruits and vegetables that give us life and energy. And like, we need to explore that more as a church.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we don't think about stewarding our bodies as much as we should be, the physical health. So can you just like bullet point me a little bit? So what are some of the things that you think brought you to this point where suddenly you're sick? And then what were some of the bullet point things that started to shift your state and shift your body?
Oh yeah, like into health.
Yeah. So first, how did you get to this point? Well, what do you think, your opinion? Because there's probably some people watching here that have similar habits to the old Owen and don't think anything of it. And I am of firm belief that you don't need to get hit by a bus before you learn not to walk in the middle of the highway.
100%, and people wrote books, and in America, especially, like, we don't always value the wisdom of the ages. And, we look at our grandmothers as hocus pocus and what did they know? And I feel like we lose a certain sense of richness about our past and where we came from and what we've learned about the human body, having gone through thousands and thousands of years of bear attacks. And I just read the Old Testament, like Isaac was taking thousands of sheep from one town to another, like while he was afraid his brother would attack him. Like, they knew some things, right? About Jacob knew something about putting sticks out and it will make the sheep have spots and things. Now, my point is that our ancestors knew so much about our bodies that we have forgotten in our modern age. So some of the things that led me to a cancer diagnosis are the same things that lead to every cancer diagnosis. Toxic food consumption. I was a fast food junkie. I got cancer 5 years into our marriage, and my wife tried to feed me healthy food. She's kind of a hippie. But I was living like a teenager still. And I was like, hey, I'm, like, I want to eat the foods my mom never gave me. I want to eat like TV dinners and Taco Bell. And so I had a toxic lifestyle, Mountain Dew and Fritos all the time. Right. I had a toxic, ambition. I was go, hustle, and carried no gratitude with me, carried a lot of bitterness with me. I could not congratulate colleagues when they excelled beyond me. When my colleagues, my good buddies, began to grow their channels beyond mine, I was overcome with a sense of worthlessness and bitterness and selfishness. And I distanced myself from good friends who I've since apologized to. For not being there during their rise to stardom. I'm so proud of them. And I'm so embarrassed by the way that I responded. I was toxic. Ambition, money, still a good Christian man, for sure. Just an immature young father, grew up in trauma, carrying around self-hatred and trauma from my childhood that God freed me from that. I often say, like, God saves us once, but he rescues us every day.
Wow.
And that's like, God was just rescuing me all the time from my trauma and the bitterness I had toward, like, all the bitterness holding and the stuff. So, poor diet, poor stress life. Then things I was not doing, like I was not exercising. Even my exercise was toxic. It's like, slam a protein shake and then go to the gym and, work it out. It's just like, so living a very toxic lifestyle.
What about sleep? Were you sleeping? Were you drinking water?
Never. Mountain Dew.
Wow.
In fact, we drank water. We would get alkaline water from this natural well. And I remember drinking that water thinking, I can never get cancer because I'm drinking alkaline water. People are so dumb and I'm so smart. It's such a lie, right? And I did get cancer. So like, I was living in this, like, I didn't learn anything. I was so hungry to just make a lot of money, and I had an improper outlook on life. I just thought that, like, if I worked hard I could make $1 million and then I could just rest. And really what I had to come to learn was that work is a blessing, okay? But the ground is cursed. So it's a blessing, but it's going to be hard, right? And I don't like, now I'm in a place where my work-life balance is balanced, right? Like I enjoy the work I do. And I recognize that I'm probably going to work my whole life, like even after retirement, which is when the company is done with you. They call it retirement. Like my goal is enough passive income to where I don't do anything, right? Like it's the money just comes in. But I guarantee you I'm still building apps. I guarantee you I'm still mentoring people and flying and giving speeches and writing books. I guarantee you I'm still doing that stuff.
Yeah, sure.
So having this like outlook on life where it's like you're going to work forever and it's a blessing, but work isn't your life. It's not. My value is in who God is and who he made me to be. Like that he even made me is my value. My value is no longer dependent on how many subscribers or dollar bills I have in my bank account.
Sure. Man, okay, so you're going through this process, and I just want to throw this in there. Mountain Dew has a lot of caffeine, right? Compared to most drinks. There's a lot of caffeine in Mountain Dew.
Oh, yeah.
And so right now, people getting heavily dependent on caffeine in different forms and how easy it is to get access to caffeine. I think that's a big deal. So what are some of the things, bullet point, that you shifted and that you're doing now? And I saw you put a post up about a long fast that you did recently. And
yes, yeah, I did. I mean, I do fasting all the time, and that's the number one therapy I would say for anybody with cancer. So let me preface by saying this. When I learned how to beat cancer, I came across a book called Radical Remission. And the way that I came across this book in itself was divine. But I ran across the book, Radical Remission. Get it on audiobook, whether you have cancer or someone you know has cancer or you have $10, just get the book because you'll learn so much about cancer in this book. It's 10 chapters. There's an overview, but then the remaining 9 chapters are about a study that was done on 1,500 people that beat cancer without chemotherapy, without pharmacy and poisonous toxic drugs. They did a natural plan, and she interviewed, this is a well-known study, and they interviewed 1,500 people across the world. And what they found was they had 9 core things in common. Like some people did 75 things, other people did 4 things, but there was 9 that they all had in common. Those 9 things are what I did. Let me outline them for you right now. No, it's radical diet change. Radical diet change. That is a key movement. So I immediately went into a plant-based keto diet. So I'm only eating plants. I'm only eating 900 calories a day. Okay. Cancer is a disease of opulence. Cancer is a disease of the food, right? And that I'm simplifying it, but
sure,
cancer grows on what you eat. So stop eating. You won't grow the cancer, you'll grow your body, and the cancer will eventually starve and die, right? So that's exactly what I did. So when it came for me, like doing the therapies that cured cancer, number one is education, right? You have to read and learn from cancer survivors and the doctors who heal cancer survivors, right? You don't go to WebMD. You don't go to your primary care physician. Like these are wards of the state. Your doctor at the hospital was assigned to you based on a rotating thing on who's next. And they are by law only allowed to recommend to you those things which fuel the pharmaceutical company profits. Okay. Think about that for a moment. They will not suggest plant-based medicine. They will not suggest. They are not by law allowed to. They are only allowed to recommend therapies that have gone through a pharmaceutical testing process, which means it will be a pharmaceutical. Okay. So you're not going to get this kind. You have to educate yourself and you have to be willing to say no to your doctor, right? Like that was the big thing that I learned. That's step 1. Step 2 is fasting. Fasting. To this day, I do 18/6 fasting. If you're not eating, cancer's not eating. I also do a 24-hour fast every Monday. And once a year, I do an extended 7-day fast. And this is where I rent an Airbnb and I just hang out there and drink water with lemon for days. And it's an amazingly spiritual time. You come to admire, like, how did Jesus do this for 40 days? Right? Like, incredible stuff. So fasting has been huge. You don't need to fast as much as I do. Like, fasting, intermittent fasting will reduce your chance of cancer by over 50% if you don't have cancer today. It cleans up your whole body system. So fasting is huge. Plant-based diet is huge. I also did some other therapies. I did intravenous vitamin C, which I thought was very helpful. It wasn't something I needed to do forever. I also did 2 other infusions, all natural, poly MVA and DCA, which are all natural components that they IV into your body, and they're antibiotic and they're antifungal, and they help clean up your body. Hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy is huge. We bought a hyperbaric oxygen. There it is right there.
Yeah.
We bought an HBOT unit. A best purchase I've ever made for my health. I think everyone will have them in the future.
Wow.
Better than a cold plunge is a hyperbaric chamber. Your cold plunge will be like, you could do that in the shower, but you can't mimic hyperbaric.
Sure. And how much time do you spend in that?
An hour a session 3 times a week.
Okay.
Right now it's more of a weekend luxury though. Right now it's like, if I could get an hour in there on the weekend and read a book, like, I'll have my kids do time out in there. My kid can get in and out of there, no problem. But what it does is it fills your blood and your brain with oxygen. Like, it is a nice little hit. I have a sauna, and my sauna is second best. Like, you have to detox. Cancer has to come out of your body, right? So you need to be detoxing constantly. So I sweat in there almost every morning. And those are like the big therapies that I did to beat cancer.
Wow. Very interesting. And if you're watching now, obviously we've got a few comments on here talking about this. I don't know if you can see the comments, but a few people talking about cancer can't grow on ketones.
Fun. I can see everybody.
So yeah, very, very cool. And I'm excited for people to take what you just said seriously and start to do something about it. We just lost someone to cancer a week and a half ago, which was very hard. And it just seems to me that in the last 5 years, or maybe 5 to 10 years, but definitely 5 years, cancer is just everywhere, popping up everywhere, Yeah. So, well, just coming back to the subject of purpose, I'm conscious of your time, and, and again, it's been awesome having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you a few questions and your thoughts on this, right? So, number one, you had mentioned that you find God and you love video, and you see these two intertwining at the beginning of the journey, but then you go and learn how to become better at your craft. Can you speak to that a little bit, the importance of being proficient, being competent, and being excellent at what you do? Because there's a lot of believers, I guess, who downplay that, spirituality's up there. And
I struggle with it. Like, most of us go to church with fairly blue collar people who work jobs every day and know they know a job lifestyle, and that's tough as an entrepreneur when my men's group doesn't understand me, right? Like, we were a part of a home group for 10 years, and our best friends in life came from that group. But we went through a season of separation over taxes, and like, our position is that we must render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, but not what doesn't belong to Caesar. And like, when Caesar starts saying, you owe me this now, this is in California, it's like, you owe me this so I can trans your kids, or you owe me that so that I can go bomb a country. It's like, no, like, you're taking way more than what belongs to Caesar. And so we as Christians, like, I believe, need to show stewardship over what's God's given us. And we came into like conflict with our church group. And that's going to happen in the church, man. There's a lot of people that are like, I'm saved, and now it's like a downhill slide into eternity.
Mm.
And I'm different. Like, I was dead and now I'm alive. So I believe that ambition, to become all that God made us to be, should be our ultimate goal in life, right? It's not to be a gold medalist, or it's not to be number one. Those things may happen in your pursuit. And I love that one of the number one comedians in America right now, Nate Bargatze, is a Christian and talks about being a Christian on stage, and talks about it in a way that's relevant to our lives. I love it. God can turn you into the best this country's ever seen. The best coach, the best mom, right? You might get the gold medal, but that's not the goal. The goal is to be, Lord, can you make me better today? Can you make me more influential today? Right? That's what I think we should be shooting for. And I think that maybe speaks to the heart of your question is, developing ourselves as people is I think fundamental to the Christian walk. And sometimes that can be looked at negatively by comfortable Christians. And so I often say that, like, I mean, it frustrates me because sometimes I feel disconnected at my church. I feel like nobody here gets me. But it also helps to remind me that if it wasn't for the church, I would probably not be in contact with these people, right? Like,
Sure.
that's what church is for, to bear each other's burdens, to go be a part of a community. And so I look at that as this great learning experience. Like, okay, my life plan is a little different than yours, but how do we come together to honor God and to grow our community, right? Like, that's my MO. So when I get into environments of there's a pastor in my church that says, Jesus solved your biggest problem already. And it's that attitude is kind of like, hey, don't worry about anything. You're going to heaven. And it's like, yeah, but that's where the story begins. To me, that's not where the story ends. So.
Sure. I love it. And I think a lot of people would resonate with what you're saying, especially entrepreneurs or people that are action takers that are already taking action.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that in there too. Whatever you find your hand to do it with all your might. That's what the Bible says. And I recommend whoever's listening, watching, that you actually work on becoming better at your craft. Giving yourself to what God's called you to is awesome.
Yeah. Amen.
So Owen, here's another question. How, if someone's here and they're dealing with adversity, like you had your cancer journey, you probably had a lot of other downs or moments in valleys. Anything that you want to say to people that are stuck in that place? What is
man. Like, I was going through the cancer journey. I went through 2 years of aggressive, all natural therapy, and beating cancer naturally is not easier than beating cancer with chemo. Pick your hard, right? So I'm going through this journey, and like, there's a lot of faith. It's like, hey, if you fast, the cancer will decrease. That is exactly what happened for me. I began to fast, and I got x-rays or CT scans, and the cancer was smaller. And so I was grateful, like, it's working. But I noticed about a year into my journey that my vision was starting to go. I had these 2 dots in my eyes. Like, it's hard. Yeah. They like these big gray areas, big gray fuzzy. They were grayed out like a blur on a TV screen, right? And I couldn't see through them. And I was scared. So I went to the doctor, and he told me that I had a brain tumor. So here I am, a year into fasting, juicing, all the things, and then brain tumor. So I can't even tell you what that was like. I went through it very privately. I did not share that with the public. And my wife and I struggle with that. Go to get a CT scan to, like, how big is it? Like, what are the details of the brain tumor? It's not a brain tumor. It's a blood clot It's a remnant from the radiation therapy from years and years and years ago. So it
Wow.
was like all that to say, it was like, what a relief. It's just a blood clot in your brain, right? But it's like, like you're going to get kicked in the teeth over and over again. Now, they put me on a blood thinner, which to this day, I am still taking the blood thinner. But I believe that one day I will learn how to cure that blood. I have a blood clotting issue. Also, I believe that one day I'll find a way to solve that. As of right now, it's like we're working on it. But
Sure.
all that to say is, like, even on the journey, like I got kicked in the teeth. It's not like, oh, you just get to beat cancer now. It's like, no, you get to beat cancer and work a job or your business, like, and get all these misdiagnoses. Just 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, man, they told me that you've got 2 huge growths in your abdomen. Freaking out again. Go to the hospital, CT scan. You look clean. The thing must have made an error.
Oh my gosh.
So, like, and here's what I've learned. I've learned that the hospitals are always wrong. Like, they're always wrong. That's what I've learned. I'm not saying they're always wrong for you and everyone else, but for me, they were always wrong. They always told me I had things I didn't have. They were always negative. So I decided to stop going back to the hospitals and to instead work within my network of doctors that I believe the Lord has led me to. That's what I do. And so that's my advice, is like, life is not about avoiding the hard times. Life is about becoming the type of person that can overcome the hard times. So when I go through an issue, I don't think, why me? I put on my gloves and I go, let's go to work.
Boom. Come on, man. So good. Couple more questions here. So what do you do when you feel unqualified? Now, I'm guessing at some point that might have happened for you, right? Like, when I talk a lot about purpose cycles and how you go from an assignment. So you understand your identity, engage in assignment, you grow in maturity, and then you go through this next cycle to a bigger place, right? Like David is looking after some sheep, and then he kills a bear, then he kills a lion, he delivers cheese sandwiches, then he meets a giant.
Yeah.
So Owen would be able to see these cycles, but then sometimes you end up in a place where maybe you're like, whoa, like this is a big jump. You know, I'm in front of Jonathan Rumi. What's happening here in the back of your mind? Maybe I'm unqualified. Am I qualified? Wow, I'm in front of my hero. Well, I'm in front of people I was looking at that are amazing. Any thoughts on that? How do you deal with that?
Yeah. You know, imposter syndrome, I think, is what you're talking about. And it's real. We all deal with imposter syndrome. And a big help for me is my affirmations. And I want to talk about affirmations from a Christian perspective, because there's a lot of confusions over what affirmations are. Affirmations to me are repeating biblical truths to myself or reciting them out loud to the Lord, reminding my body, my soul, my spirit of what biblical truths are, that God made me for this, right? And I have them written down in my phone, and I have various levels of affirmations too. I have like the affirmations when I first got started, and then like the affirmations when I got like a little bit farther along. But I put them into these statements that reminded me of who I am. So here's one. He makes my hands ready for war. He makes known the path of life. He guides my steps. These are all Bible verses.
Sure.
In his right hand are pleasures forevermore. God is my rock and my redeemer. Of whom shall I be afraid? He has heard my prayers. He has seen my tears. He has seen my affliction, and he knows the torment of my soul. He will heal all my diseases. So affirmate, like when I approach, even in business today, when I approach like, wow, this is big, right? Like we have a goal next year to hit $3 million. And that's big. But here's what I tell myself, that God made me for this. He puts my feet on broad ground. And if I believe that the Lord's favor is on me. And so I asked the Lord for his favor, and I asked that he would bless me with the circumstances that would make me the type of man deserving of that type of reward. Right? Lord, you ask me to give you the desires of my heart. My desire is that I would hit $3 million, not so that I can be rich, but because I love it, Lord. I love business. You have put this desire, this love in me. Help me to achieve, right? Help me to grow and help me to become more influential, Lord, that more people would come into my camp. And as they become into my camp, I would lead them towards you, Father. Help me to become the kind of man that you could trust with a $3 million business. Help me, Lord, become the kind of man that would see the way to build a $3 million business. And I pray, Lord, that you would bring the customers to me. I pray that you would make it easy. I pray that you would show the world your love for me through that great abundance. But if you choose not to do that, Lord, let me rejoice in whatever you choose to give me your son who loves you. You know what I mean? So it's like that imposter syndrome. I go back to like who my father is, and I go back to who I am, and I move forward, knowing that if I fail, God will use it to educate me. If I succeed, God's favor was upon me. And either way, I raise a hallelujah.
So good. Boom. Well, last question. All right. Every person has a different expression of their walk with God, but then they also have a different expression of their time with the Lord. Right. And I know that religion tries to put these yokes on people of what walking with the Lord should look like. And you wake up in the morning and it should be 5 chapters and you should be praying on your knees, facing this direction. And we love formulas. We love the fallen man loves this religion to try and escape something. Right?
Totally,
So
man.
what does it look like for Owen to be with the Lord, to hang with the Lord, to do life with him, to let him speak into him, to get strategy from him on certain projects? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, man. Wow. No one's ever asked me that before. But I pray that I would walk with the Lord like Adam did in the garden. I pray that I would. I don't think I live that out daily. In fact, there are times when I'm like, I have not spoken to the Lord at all today, you know? But I believe in schedules. You know, the Lord has made me a more organized person through the gift of cancer. You have to be here at 1 and there at 2. And, you know, that place has internet, this place does not. And so that's like, do your work there, but read a book here. And like, you have to get organized with your life. And it taught me a great lesson on organization. I think before cancer, I was semi-organized, and I've learned that I actually have a gift for it, to the place of like exponentializing my time, right? Like going from like, I need to take a walk every day. I need to get the dog exercise every day. And I need to listen to a book every day. Well, I combined all of those things into, you know, run with the dog while you're listening to a book. And now it's like 25 minutes. All 3 of those things are done. Sure. Right. I became very productive in multiplying my time. What my day looks like now is I have structures. I have buckets in place. Right. So it's Bible reading every morning. Like the first words that hit my mind need to be the words of God. And I'm not perfect at it. Sometimes I roll over and look at my phone, but I've really become more disciplined in that. I really don't look at my phone until it's a habit now. Like I wake up, I get coffee, I sit in my chair, and I'm reading from the Word of God. I read what He asked me to read. So like I've been in the Old Testament for like a year. I went through the entire Old Testament, from Joshua to Micah. And now I'm just going back through Genesis, and I'm reading it, and then I'm going through it with my kids in our Sunday Shabbat service. Like we do a lot of church at home, not all church, but we do a lot of church at home with the kids and raising them at our knee, right? Like and really, because like at church, man, you get a bunch of like fun churchy songs, and they'll go draw pictures of elephants and childs. It's not the gospel though, bro. And it's like like I'm responsible for my children's heart, not. So when we go to church, it's almost like, let's go to church today. Let's go be social and say hi, and we'll go to lunch afterwards. And but that's so every day it starts with that time with the Lord. And then shower or sauna, wherever I'm at first, is prayer. It's like I'm in with prayer, and I'm asking the Lord for what's truly on my heart. It's not a memorized thing. Like the moment I get into memory, I ask the Lord. There's 2 big things I ask the Lord for. Is like, Lord, help me to pray for what you would have me pray for, right? And then it's, Lord, help me to confess my sin to you, right? Show me the sin that you would like confessed. Like the moment I get into like, and please bless this day, and please bless my wife, it's like, no, that's not what we came to do. Like you're speaking to the God of the universe here, right? And so I have these kind of defaults to make sure that my prayer time is like in check. But let me tell you this, man. I try I don't want to come off like I'm this great Christian, right? Like I try to be, but I try to consult the Lord for everything. Like, Lord, I'm going to go look at new cars today. Would you turn me around if you don't want me buying a new car? Would you direct me to the car you want me to buy? Lord, would you, like, I try to walk into a building, and Lord, would you have whoever helps me here today? Would you allow me to bless them somehow? Like, would you send somebody to me who needs the gospel or who has a message for me, please? Like, I try to consult the Lord in all things. Lord, what should I eat? Like, I plan today for lunch, I'm going to have, because I have a strict diet, right? So it's like today for lunch, I'm going to have like vegetables and mushrooms, right? So it's like, Lord, if there's a better idea for food, would you put it in my path? Otherwise, this is my plan, right? I try to consult the Lord in all things. When my kids come to me with problems, I try to say, first, let's consult the Lord. My son just came to me with a problem, you know, and I think I responded well. Looking back, what I would like to do is I would like to like, before we talk about this problem, let's thank the Lord for this time together. Like, he came in crying about Legos, and I wanted to be like, can we first just thank the Lord for that time that we had with the Legos? That's what I'm trying to get to, is in all things that we do. And, you know, I go through ins and outs. Like, I'm doing it a lot, I'm doing it less. But that's how I try to live my life, down to the books I read and the movies we watch, you know.
That's really cool, man. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure some families right now would be thinking up how they could have their Shabbat service, as you say, at their home, you know, which I think is very important. Like, yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. Is there anything else you want to leave as your last wisdom bomb, your one liner?
If I have any wisdom, it comes from the Lord. You know, I'm grateful to be in a place where people ask me to be on their podcasts. And I've got some cancer information at beatcancerwithme.com. Of course, if you want to learn more about me as a professional and our YouTube program, we have a great workshop program for young professionals. owenvideo.com. It's a one-day workshop plus, you know, a whole bunch of recorded trainings and templates and guides, and you know, there's some value there. So I appreciate you letting me be a part of your world today.
Man, this was amazing. And I'm going to put these links in the captions so you can check that out and make sure to go and see what Owen's up to. And if you have friends that are business owners that are wanting to actually build revenue and don't know how to do that through video, here is a man who can take you through that process and bring you to an actual outcome, actual results. So, Owen, man, it's been great. I look forward to tracking your journey further and seeing what else is to come, because I know there's so much more to come for you. It's been awesome. I honor your path. I honor your journey, man. And thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thanks, Joseph.
Awesome. So, Owen, you stay with me. Everyone else, we're going to say bye. We'll see you on the next one.